So I think my overall experience was very positive and impactful. I remember my first session with Miss Aarti was about a year before my college applications began, and immediately after I finished my first session, I knew that I was going to go with Teenr. It's because I built over that 1 hour, I built such a personal connection with Miss Aarti, and I feel like I came from a background with different strengths and different weaknesses. And I knew that in the back of my mind. I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to showcase it the way I had to for college applications. And Miss Aarti immediately saw me for who I was and saw my subjective approach to my college applications. And just the whole journey, the 1 year journey, was so smooth. The team was so cooperative, always there for me. Whenever I needed help at any time of the day, they were there to guide me. So I think overall, it was such a good experience, and I would do it all over again with them and only them. So initially, I think, like I mentioned before, I came from a very different angle. I came from I came from a sports background, to be frank, and I just like left sports, and I knew I always wanted to go to the US for college. So I just wanted to find a college counselor who was gonna see me for me and see my strengths and my weaknesses and work with my extracurriculars and my grades. And I just wanted to make sure that they saw me and they really put me and my portfolio out there as who I was. And I think that's exactly what happened. So, to go from a very personal experience, a lot of my friends were actually applying to the US like me, and their college experience and their college counselor, they felt like they were just doing what they were given to do. It was very black and white for them. Okay, I need to achieve these grades. I have a perfect SAT score. I have a decent amount of extracurriculars from different backgrounds, and I just need to slam it on a college application, and that's about it. But I think what's so different and what I felt with Teen R was that's not how you do it. You need to really personalize your college application. You need to realize what you're doing is for you. And you need to branch out to what you like. You need to find the perfect interests and different fields in what you like. And find ways to put that on your application. Find ways to show people who you really are. And I think with Teenr, every step of the way, I had weekly consultations with Miss Sujaya for about 6 months before my applications truly began. And I think that was so important for me because every week I would have a list of things I would have to complete, simplify things, it broke down things, and most importantly, it showed me where I have to work on, what more I have to add to my application. If I'm lacking, maybe my grades are perfect right now, but I can maybe squeeze in time for another internship. That way it looks good on my application, but that's not all what's important. It's important that I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm furthering my connections and my interest in the field. So I think that's where I saw a big difference. A lot of people, when they go for counseling, their counselor, they don't have that personal connection. They're just doing it because they have to and they want the best results. But I think there's so much more to it. In the backseat, there's so much more you have to do with it. And that's what I saw with Tina. So the two I can remember right now was one, I did an entrepreneurship internship with Immersion, and I did a psychology internship. And starting with the entrepreneur one, I think the first thing was the connections. I am slightly an introverted person, but this led me to meet so many new people, and not just from India but from across the world. Some with who I'm still connected with, which is great. Some who are still coming to the US with me. And I think it was a different field for me. I was always inclined to biology and psychology. I came from a sports background. So in the back of my mind, I was kind of set on what I wanted to do. But this program, I feel like it just gave me a whole new approach. And I think that's so important because when you're going into college, you don't have to be 100% sure what you want to do. And I kind of got this business finance background and I truly enjoyed it. It was about 3 months long. I found so many new friends. We had projects to work together with. We had different expertise coming in. So it wasn't just, okay, fine, they're talking to you, they're showing you something, and that's the end of the conversation. No, they're getting real world experts, real world applications, and that's so important if you want to learn. So and connections, again, like I mentioned, I met so many new people. We connected further to try building our projects to make it even bigger. So it was a really good experience. And now coming to the psychology internship, I think that's where I benefited the most. Like I mentioned, I want to go into the biopsychology or psychology or neuroscience field, and we had a expertise, I think, of 26 years who was practicing psychology. So in that internship, I learned how to interview people. I learned more about myself. It was a great self-reflection internship. I got to know various fields in psychology. Psychology, I always thought it was just one simple blank thing, but I realized there's so many subdivisions of psychology, and that kind of again branched out to what I could potentially study in the future. Maybe I was inclined to clinical psychology. Now I know there's cognitive psychology, and we got like around 8 or 10 different expertise in these psychology branches. And the most important thing is, if you want to know more about what you want to study, the best way to do it is to approach people who are already in that field. And that's the opportunity we were given. We were given about an hour to interview them, find our own questions, find our own answers, do whatever we could with that time. And I hope, and I really do think that I used it to the best, and that's definitely guiding me to a better place in college right now. So my social initiative I started when I was about ninth or 10th grade. It involved me helping children on the spectrum in the water, because I was formerly a competitive swimmer. And firstly, I want to start off by saying that I really didn't know what I was doing with that social initiative. I just knew something I was doing out of passion. I knew I liked being in the water with kids and helping them get to a different stage in life. And when I told Miss Aarti that I was doing this, that it's something that makes me happy, and I took a step back from competitive swimming, but I kind of reignited something in me to like be back in the water, but not as a competitor, as like a mentor. And she immediately helped me see how big it was. Looking back at it right now, I'm just like, wow, it is such a big thing. Just connecting the Young Innovators program to what the social initiative I started, which was called Vikara. I think one was I just learned more about myself through the Young Innovators program. And I think I was able to apply that in the water again. I think a lot of the activities we did in the Young Innovators program, they were more about relationship building. So I think I remember one activity we had was we have to go back and talk to people, ask them a few questions. And I actually did that with a lot of my students in the water. So we had an option of doing it with our friends or family. I did that with them too. But then this was a really good relationship building that I got to apply with my students in the water. Even though not a lot of them are verbal in the water, but it gave me a sense of like connectivity when I got to like apply something I'm learning in the classroom back in the water. So I think that way it was a great connection. I started my journey. The first session I had was about a year before my applications began with Miss Aarti in January of 2024. And I remember after that session, I felt like, okay, fine, I'm being heard for who I am. It didn't come from okay, fine, they're going to be my counselor. Now I just need to give them what I have, and they're just going to put it on an application. I think the first thing I remember so clearly telling my dad is, wow, she heard my story. She wanted to see me for who I was. I came from a very difficult, I had gone through something really tough, and the first thing she was like, leave everything, think about yourself, think about what you've gone through, and then let's build from that. And I think initially when I started my program, when I started all my activities, I had essays, I had questions, I had weekly to-do lists to go through. And those essay questions, those reflection questions, really, you have to sit with yourself. You need to think about what you want. You really be heard within yourself. And I think that really shaped my well-being a lot. And talking to Miss Aarti, Miss Sujaya, who was like mainly with me throughout my journey before my applications began, I think with every session I connected with her, the first thing she would ask me was, how are you doing? How is everything? How are your activities going? Coming to the college thing was secondary. She really wanted to like hear me, be there for me, know that she's just not my mentor, but like a friend. She's there to hear me. And that really stuck with me. I don't know if it's because I'm going into that field of psychology and, just like connections mean so much to me. But, being there for someone aside from what you guys are doing together means so much, especially as a student who's going through so much at that time. It's such a crucial thing to make sure that you're there for them, just as a person, just as a human being, to make sure that they're okay. And I definitely found that every step of the way. So that really shaped my well-being, and I just felt like I was heard. And I think that's so important. I would say I would start with confidence because I was exposed to the two internships. It really brought me out of my shell. I had to work with new people, people I hadn't even seen in person. It was all through social media or, online. So I think that definitely boosted my confidence just to get out there, to talk to people, to get new information. So now I feel like I can approach things differently without thinking twice, and that's so important. You're gonna go into a place of people with you don't know anybody over there, and the one thing you need is self confidence. So I think Emotion and Tina really pushed me and got that out there for me. Secondly, I think I lacked. I wouldn't say I was a very big procrastinator, but I definitely was. I would just put off things because I just like to do things on my own pace. But I think with Teenr, I had such a set. It was broken down for me. It was very personalized, very subjective. They saw me and they saw my schedule and they planned everything around it. Obviously, you can't change everything to do one thing, right? So I think definitely my procrastination definitely improved my efficiency. That was what I gained. My efficiency, my time efficiency definitely changed because of, even when I was doing my internships, we had a lot of weekly projects that we had to complete, weekly tasks that we had to complete. And frankly speaking, I had so many other things I had to do. I had my schoolwork to complete, I had my ECs to give my attention to. But I think just planning out things the way they planned out things according to you, that definitely helped me with my efficiency, my time efficiency. So these were, I would say, my top two skills that have improved. So again, when I started, I didn't have a clear-cut idea of what I wanted to do. I'm just like, okay, I like psychology, but do I really want to do it? I liked biology a little bit. I came from a sports background, so I'm like, okay, maybe that's an option. But I think talking to my mentors throughout this journey, they gave me the opportunity to explore a lot of different fields. They gave me, okay, fine, why don't you try this internship? See if this is what you like. And I think that, like I mentioned, the entrepreneurship, the Young Innovators program, I had never thought about even going into that field. I always, actually, to be honest, I drove away from it. But now I'm actually considering maybe doing a minor in finance, business, or entrepreneurship in college, just because it gave me the opportunity to see something beyond my own walls. It gave me that extra space to grow, to think, and I never got that in school. I think in school also I was just like, okay, fine, I'm gonna do what I like. And I just never explored beyond my boundaries. And over here, I got the opportunity to talk to so many different people who are going through the same thing as me. I found a friend in Dubai that I had to mention. She also liked psychology, but she tied it in with nutrition. And I'm like, that's such a brilliant thing that she's doing. She's tying her psychology liking to her nutrition liking, and she's trying to build something with that. And then my internship with Miss Shobha, the immersion internship, I think that definitely was the breaking point of when I realized what I wanted to do. Like I mentioned, I interviewed 8 different psychologists from 8 different fields, and I think I wouldn't have had the opportunity to do that anywhere else. I think that really gave me an insight of what more I want to do with my psychology degree if I choose to pursue that. So I think that way, TNR really gave me the opportunity to explore so many different fields and really, pinpoint what I want to do. I would say the one thing that changed that way was I saw things very objectively. When you're so into doing your college application, at least for me, this is, I don't know how common this is, but I started seeing things so subjectively. I'm like, okay, fine, I have my swimming, I have this, I have that, I have a good shot at this, I have a good shot at this university. But I think talking to people, involving myself in internships, it really gave me that shot to look at things objectively. You can't look at things in one lens. And I think that, yeah, the biggest thing was objectivity for me. There's not one thing, there are too many things. But I think the main thing I would carry is, be who you are. Be who you want to be. You're doing this for yourself at the end of the day. You're not doing this for anybody else. Make sure you're enjoying what you're doing. Build connections along the way, make new friends, be true to who you are, and just enjoy what you're doing. Just keeping it short and sweet. That's what's most important. I would also like to add one more thing which is so important, because especially for me, when I was applying to the US, I think I applied to over 15 universities, and I didn't get into all of them, obviously. But I think think one important message for everyone out there who's going to apply for college in the coming years is, it might be a common phrase that you hear, but rejection is redirection. And I strongly believe in this, and I think you should too. Only because I feel like everyone ends up in the place they belong, and you're going to have the best time no matter where you end up being. Maybe I think also because college is such a, you start the journey way back in middle school or like your early days of high school, right? So you also have your dream colleges, and you're not necessarily going to get into your dream college, right? So I think, just hearing rejection is redirection really helped me push through so many things. Also you're going to see your peers getting into colleges maybe you didn't get into. I think, like, it affects you mentally for sure. And I think you just need to stay grounded, make sure you remind yourself that you did your best and now it's not in your hands anymore. So you just gotta let what's gonna happen, and then you're gonna end up where you belong. So I got accepted to 6 universities: Northeastern University in Boston, the University of Washington in Seattle, UC Irvine, UC Davis, UC Santa Barbara, and University of Wisconsin-Madison. I got the purple and gold scholarship in the University of Washington, Seattle, and I'm happy to say that's where I'll be committing for the next 4 years. I've been admitted to the pre-sciences program, which means I currently do not have a major, but I will have to apply to this. I think everybody gets into the pre-sciences. The one thing was, I was very sure that I was going to go to one of the UCs, to be frank. In the UCs, there are 9, and I applied to almost all of them. And my brother was there in SD, so I was always inclined to California. And then I got my Northeastern decision, which I think, if I'm not wrong, the acceptance rate is 5.6% this year. So I was startled. I'm like, whoa, I got into Northeastern. But that's where it came in. I'm going to do my research on these universities, because I want to make sure the university I pick isn't because of the name. Because I think, sometimes you gotta put the ego aside. It's not because of the name, the location matters, your course matters. So I think after doing my research in all of these, I think UW Seattle was my fit. I was very happy with the course I was given. If I'm not wrong, it's in psychology, it's like top 5 or top 7 right now. And I think just their whole system, I think they have a quarter-based system. And I think now actually a good reflection is that now I work better with like a fast-paced schedule, which is what the irony. So I think everything about the UW program just, called my name. And I was very happy with the location. I was in the West Coast. I wasn't too drawn to the East Coast. I think, the whole difference was I came in with one mentality of only wanting to go to California. And now I'm so happy with the decision I made with having to go to like Seattle. So yeah, I think just with the whole research, it called my name. Yeah, so frankly speaking, I was a very average student. I didn't submit my SAT score. So I was test free. I think what really made my profile stand out was how I put it across, and how Miss Aarti helped me. I remember when we were going through my application, and it was just a few days before submitting, every full stop mattered, every word mattered. So I think just the way you might have everything and you might have nothing, but the way you showcase it is so important. And I think that's what gave me a boost. I really found my strengths, and I found my weaknesses, and I found how to highlight my strengths, which were my swimming, ECs, and whatever any other extracurriculars I did. And frankly speaking, my GPA was like, it would have been considered one of my weaknesses. But we found a way to make my weaknesses look like a good strength, and my strength a better strength. So I think it all came down to how I showcased my talents on my profile. I think after going through this whole journey, it's never too early. The earlier you start, the better. And I think one thing why I suggest that is because the earlier you start, the more you realize. I think one was, when you start your college journey, you might not be sure if you want to do one certain thing. So it really gives you the opportunity to try out a branch of new things. And just getting a kickstart to your whole college journey is good. Also, you don't want to have the load towards the end of your years. And I think for me personally, that's what happened. I think I had 1 year to do so many things, not complaining that I gained so much from that. But if it also depends on you, subjectivity, right? So if you start early, it kind of gives you a better clear-cut vision of what you want. A lot of my peers coming from a very personal experience, they started early, but you might realize it's not what you want, and you don't want to do you don't want to get into something you don't want, right? And coming to like why you should have a mentor, you only know so much, and that's just the truth, right? You're a student, you're going to see things very from your side only. You're going to have so many different ideas, but if you don't have someone who's experienced, someone who's been there, someone who probably knows more about your college than the college you want to go to than yourself, it's always good to have an expertise with you by your side, guiding you, just helping you out, pitching in new ideas to enhance yourself and your profile to the max. Again, way too many things to say, but I think when I joined Teenr about a year and a half ago, I think it was a pivotal moment in my life. I met new people who really saw me for who I was, and I'm gonna stick to that. I think I've mentioned that a lot of times, but that really meant a lot to me. I think I came from a very dark place, and it was like light. I met Miss Sujaya and Miss Arti, and they really saw me for who I was. They just wanted to do the best for me. And I think Tina really takes a subjective approach, and not just subjective, but they really see you and they see your strengths, your weaknesses, and they really build on that. And that's so important in your college applications, to really see the person for who they are, to see where you can enhance anything. And I think Tina really did that with me, and I would recommend anyone to come and join them and join our team. Thank you so much.